So I just got back from Springfest Belgium and we topped both Overdress and Premium. The Premium deck profile is for tomorrow, but today I wanted to talk about my Overdress top deck. Now, if you still need Vanguard cards, you can go to 50cards.shop and use the code Solemn for a discount. The pre-orders right now are up for, I think, set 2 of Divine Zero, so go get that. Link in the description, as well as everything else Vanguard related. So this was the list with which I topped Overdress just now with, of course, the team. Dave, Alex, big shout out. Now, when the Nitros deck set was revealed, the most posted question I got was, Solemn, are you now gonna start playing Standard? And to that I say, bitch, I've been playing Standard. If we go to VG Paradox right here, we have a Springfest Standard top and another Springfest Standard top, and then I also had 2 Standard tops in BRO. I've been playing Standard. It's just usually at gunpoint. And so here we are again, playing Standard at gunpoint. Triple Esper, whatever the fuck. Why do I play this card? Because it plays around Angel Ladder. Basically, like, this is I think the best deck, if not for Angel Ladder. And Angel Ladder is just a Saki one-off. It's basically a second over trigger, but then only against Shiranui. So if you want to have any type of counterplay for the second over trigger, then you have Esper. Now, the issue with Angel Ladder, of course, is that into other matchups, it is often very dog shit. You can say, oh, but it's cycling a card. And it's like, nah, not really, because it could be any other card whenever you draw it as well. And it has no shield. If your deck requires orders in general, you can't actually activate it. Early game, you also can't call it. It is not just replacing itself whenever it's bad. But of course, if Shiranui is a really good deck, it is still a broken card. Now, do you want to play it when you're playing 3 versus 3? Not every team even has Shira on it. And so, like, at that point, you can ask yourself the question, do you want to play Esper to respect ladder when ladder shouldn't necessarily be in everyone's decks? I don't know. Now, Esper can also be used when people leave their field empty. Some decks are very good at emptying their own board to play around you, especially if you then go second, so you don't have your Shiranui on your Vanguard circle in the beginning of your right phase, so they have an empty board, so all of the shit is vanilla. But so for that reason, I was playing Esper. Then 2 Oboro. The reason for only 2 Oboro is that this stride right here is actually pretty fake. Shout out to Kai from WCC for telling me that. At first, you know, again, I never play Standard really, except for like a major event where I then try to play on instinct. But so I first read these cards, I was like, oh, this seems pretty good, but this is overall pretty fake. And so needing this, a specific stride fodder, doesn't actually come up that often. You will often just win on the pure grind that this thing provides. Sometimes you will need that finisher in a pinch, but overall, you know, you're not that down bad for this card. And this card, like, is not replacing itself when ditched for stride. It is not a shield in the early game. It's not a rear guard in the early game. It isn't like Esper. It isn't even the utility of an order either. And so for that reason, you know, it doesn't have to be at 2 high copies, especially because I was also playing this thing, so you could just search it anyway. You will notice in the gray 3s, I am not playing the when ditch for stride thing that you can then draw. And that's because I assumed that every team would have Luard and Shiranui on them, as they should, because those are the best decks. Like, so obviously, it's not even, you know, it's just crazy that you wouldn't have both on the team. So I was like, I don't want to have these like cards that won't be great in grade 2 games. But then not that many people were on the decks for some reason. So maybe that's wrong. I don't know. But so yeah, no Angel Ladder, no ditch and draw, none of that crap. I was like, I'm going to grade 2 game mostly, and I'm not going to face Nui enough for ladder to be broken. And so for that reason, you know, a little bit of a smaller package. Then for grade 2s, we have this one, the best one, you know, in terms of freestanding, and the second best one, well, I guess, you know, the worst one really. It is really good once you get into the late game, but then at that point, you are winning. So the draw doesn't really do much anymore either. And so also, it being small on its first swing is really painful. So this one is like the best one, very obviously. This one's kind of worse. Then we have 4 of Shoujo bullshit. This is just, you know, insane plussing with Shoujo. And then the Cycler. I was so surprised not everyone is on the Cycler. This card is broken as fuck. Just in the early game, being able to discard this for your write-up and then getting a free draw back is so cracked. And in the late game, it can still just replace itself, unlike Angel Ladder, which is just dead in your hand on your opponent's turn. This just replaced itself, and it's also a 5k shield at that point. And then if you don't have the energy, but you do have the CB, you can just pay the CB anyway. It's true that we don't have Persona Ride in this deck, so the second skill doesn't come out, but that doesn't matter. Just the cycling itself is really good, especially because Vanguard Overdress is still in a state where most cards suck. You know, like if you just look at pure raw card quality, everything in this deck is kind of ass. Like this Shenri is pretty ass. This thing is pretty ass. This thing is pretty ass. And this thing obviously is pretty pretty ass. So we have a lot, and this is also pretty ass. So we have a lot of pretty ass cards. Being able to play less cards overall, so you then draw into the not ass cards, is a really big deal. We are currently, if you want to look at it like in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh theory, we are in the era where 3 Upstart Goblin is correct, and this is the Upstart Goblin, and you get to play 4. And it's even better than Upstart Goblin, but this is like a broken Upstart Goblin, and we're in an era where Upstart Goblin is still correct. Yeah, this thing is at 4 very easily. Then final grade 2 is the Order. So basically in the early game, this is a way to re-get the Shoujo guy, which is really, really nice because, you know, you just have a 5th copy of it basically in the grade 2 game. But then later game, especially against decks like Varga, which will often go like rear first and then Vanguard second to do the restand thingy, then you can intercept with your guys that are gonna die anyway and then just get them back this way. And so this way you can kind of protect them in a fake way. You can also just reuse your cyclers. If you guard with your OT, you can also just take it back. So it's like a neat little thing, but to be honest, it felt pretty shit. Like whenever I had it in my hand, I was wishing it was something else. And that something else was a various card, so I don't know what it should be. Like maybe it should be the grade 3 that replaces itself and ditch for stride. Maybe it should be this. Maybe it should be this. I don't know what it should be, but all I know is that whenever I had it, I wish it was something else. That said, the OCG, Japan plays this at 2 usually, so maybe I'm dead wrong, but every time I had it in my hand, I was just like, wow, this feels so shite. The only time it was good was the Saturday night when I was like trying the grade 2 game a little bit, and then this card was crazy. But again, I didn't grade 2 game that much. Just for reference, I went 5-1 in Swiss, and I think I grade 2 gamed once. I don't know, this card wasn't that great. Maybe it's because I didn't grade 2 game often because there weren't that many Shiranui Luard in my slot. I don't know. Then triple PG 1 Elementaria, obviously 4 Shenri. I alluded to this card being shit before. It's not that there's something better, obviously, because this is still a really good card. Everyone's playing it at 4 for a reason. You need to soul. It's kind of like a push, but the problem is that everyone is committing stuff to their board right now. You know, like the Rezile or whatever the fuck, Varga in the early game. There's a bunch of decks that can commit early, and then she's just so dead. This felt so shy. Now, if people don't commit early, obviously you're very happy. It can just cycle itself. But really, if she's just replacing herself, you have to ask the question, like, why the fuck is she not something else? Of course, she can boost and then replace. I get it, but it's not that great. Like, if I was playing in V or in Premium right now, this card would not touch my deck ever because it's just really, really mid. But there is truly nothing better. Like, the grade 1 slots for this deck, and I've read every fucking Dragon Empire card a few days ago just to try and make this deck better. There is nothing better, but this is still ass. Then we have 3 of this guy. I hated this guy. You still have to play it, of course, CB1, draw, and so forth, and reusing it. Very cute. But the issue is that in the early game, where you need him most and where you want to commit him to win grade 2 games, you already paid CB for this guy, and so you don't really want to commit him to the board because you're like, oh, maybe next turn I can get his CB draw. But then the longer you wait, the more tempo you're losing because you don't have boosters. So you want to commit him, but you don't want to commit him, and it's just so awkward. So yeah, this card is also ass, but again, there's nothing better. Then we have this thing. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of deck in, and in the grade 2 game, it can be a booster. For that reason, I played it. Of course, it's also stealth. You need to keep in mind that when you're trying to plus off Shoujo Doji, anything you play is ideally stealth, because that's one issue with the cycler. Of course, it's not a stealth, so you can't actually fetch it. This was fine. Could it be the like discard grade 3 thingy? Probably. You're making your grade 2 game worse unless you play so many of this and him that you always have the combination for the free shield. But I don't know, this was fine-ish. If you're used to utility and power level of both Premium and V, or even just other fucking nations, this line of cards is just dicks. Then for the G-Zone, of course, you have no other options. Ride deck, of course, you have no other options. The Shoujo Doji for the free plussing. And then for the triggers, I mean, this thing is broken. This thing is so broken. Whenever you're striding and you get these restanders to pop off again, thanks to the OT, yeah, you're winning. OTs were, of course, broken as shit. When I was playing this weekend, and I hadn't really played it since Worlds, it was very obvious to me that over triggers are still ridiculous, and it is honestly insane that so many people have gaslit themselves into thinking we should just be quiet about it. So many people are like, oh, they're obviously not gonna ban it, so why are you still whining? It's like, bitch, this is like the biggest fucking tumor on this game. It is wild how many people are settling. This should be banned in every format. Vanguard cannot be taken seriously as a game. As long as this shit exists, it should just go. Then, of course, this trigger for Sol, and then Michelle. This is the best card in the game. This card is fucking base. I chose draws over fronts because I I thought in the grade 2 game, these are way better. Like, yeah, fronts are bigger, but most numbers aren't that big in grade 2 game. And just being able to hit this defensively and then get more pieces, and with those pieces, you can then just keep on grade 2 gaming. It's really nice. Now, of course, I barely played grade 2 games. So maybe for this event, this should have been fronts. But it was mind-blowing to me why people were in grade 2 gaming. What the fuck? So yeah, this could be fronts, this could be draws. So yeah, this was the list. Was it perfect? No. I barely tested. Again, shout out to Alex for showing me everything yesterday. Like, I played a few games with Kai, who showed me ladder is broken. And I played a few games with Alex, who showed me what decks do, like Wellstra, Rezile, and so forth. So this list was also just all, you know, based on that very limited experience. I think had I known people would win grade 2 games, some stuff would have been different here. But it could also just have been like luck of my matchups. I think for grade 2 game format, this list is very good. For write-up format, it's less so. And then do whatever you want with that information. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you still need any Vanguard cards, go to 50cards.shop and use the code Solemn for a discount. And I will see you soon. Ciao.